Hello! So, for the past 2 weeks or so, I've been playing quite a lot of Last Epoch, and I thought I would share my thoughts on the game with you. Lucky you. Or not really. Uh, I am a level 100 Void Knight. I've been playing Warpath most of the time. I have decent gear. Well, my resistances could be a little bit better, of course, but I won't talk about the build too much just because I've copied like 95% of it from someone named Volka on Maxwell. I will link his build in the description just because I want him to take all the credit for the build, of course. In this video, I will be comparing Last Epoch with Path of Exile 2 a lot, just because Path of Exile 2 is the ARPG that I've played the most. I believe I have around 2,300 hours in the game right now, in Path of Exile 2 I mean, which is insane. And because both games are so similar to each other. But I have nothing against any of the games. In fact, I believe both of them are great. Is your opinion and your preferences that will make one better than the other, probably. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have more time on your hands and you want a game with more depth, you want a game with more RNG as well, you want a game with more complications, you will probably like Path of Exile 2 more. On the other hand, if you have less time on your hands and you want a more casual game with a more deterministic crafting system and less RNG, well, you will probably like Last Epoch more. But enough with the introductions. I have made a list here, as always, with positives and slash things that I liked about the game and things that need improvement. I will start with the things that I liked. Number 1, crafting. Like I said earlier, the crafting in Last Epoch feels more deterministic and less RNG reliant than the crafting in PoE 2. In my opinion, it might even feel better than the crafting in PoE 2 in 0.3. Not only is it more deterministic, but you also get a ton of runes and shards to experiment with early on. If you've played Path of Exile 2, you would know that there are some currencies there that whenever you get, you never use them yourself just because of how rare they are. It almost always feels safer to sell them. Well, I didn't really have that problem in Last Epoch. Another semi-complaint that I have related to crafting in Last Epoch is that whenever you come to the Temporal Sanctum in order to merge a unique item with a Exalt in order to get a legendary, the part where you press B, and I'm gonna show you now, in order to teleport to the other era, it didn't really feel very intuitive to me. I don't know, maybe I'm dumb or maybe I have missed something, but it took me a few minutes the first time that I did it. But of course, you only have a problem with it the first time, right? Afterwards, not anymore. Another semi-complaint is that getting a quote-unquote endgame item in Last Epoch, a good legendary in Last Epoch, feels almost too easy. Of course, if you want the perfect item, not anymore, but I'm just talking about a decent endgame item, right? Well, not too easy, but definitely much easier than it is in Path of Exile 2. But of course, that's more of a me problem because I have played so much Path of Exile 2, right? Maybe that's a good thing for you. And talking about that, I really like that items have a forging potential and a legendary potential. They do not in Path of Exile 2. And that's what keeps you going in this game. That keeps you always looking for better items to craft. And lastly, the last thing that I like related to crafting is that you don't need the same base item than the unique in order to merge it to a legendary. And let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, that I have a unique copper plate called Titan Heart, and in order to merge it with an Exalt, I first thought that I would need an Exalt copper plate, but nope, I don't. and that's great. I loved it. Number 2, I really like that they don't ask you to pay for stash tabs with your wallet. The only thing that costs real money in the game are skins, which is awesome. Number 3, the game runs really well. Much better than Path of Exile 2 in my opinion. Whenever I play Path of Exile 2 and there is a lot of loot on the ground, my PC sounds like the car, the Formula 1 car of Lewis Hamilton. You know, right? But in Last Epoch, Tesla baby, Tesla. Very silent, even if I get a ton of loot. Number 4, the offline mode. My Wi-Fi is not great, so I loved the offline mode. Initially I have started a character in the online mode, and then I have started another character, the one that you can see on the screen, in the offline mode, and I kept playing on it. I cannot tell you the amount of splinters and the amount of maps that and bridgestones and audiences with the king, etc., that I lost in Path of Exile 2 because of my internet or because of the server problems. Well, in Last Epoch you don't have that problem if you play in the offline mode. My game never crashed, my game never disconnected, my game never lagged, etc. Number 5, the game guide. Very helpful and for the most part very easy to understand. Some things could be a little bit more intuitive, of course, but in my opinion it is much more easy to understand than Path of Exile 2. Number 6, the maps are smaller, the layouts are less clunky, and the monsters are less overwhelming in Last Epoch than in PoE 2. Again, it's you that decides if that's a good thing or not. Personally, I feel like the monsters could definitely be a little bit more aggressive / faster in Last Epoch, just because the maps in Last Epoch are less open than the maps in PoE 2. The maps in Last Epoch are more corridor-like. So realistically speaking, most of the time the monsters can only come at you from the front. So yeah. But I would take the maps in Last Epoch over the maps in PoE 2 any day of the week. Running a clunky map like, Sun Temple, where you keep getting stuck in the walls and all that, takes so much more energy than running a map in Last Epoch. Number 7, the factions, and to be more specific, COF. I have only played COF and I have never played Merchants Guild. And to be honest, I never felt the need to. Being able to spec into COF and getting all the different perks just by playing COF is amazing. Do you know how there are items in Path of Exile 2 that you never get? There are items in Path of Exile 2 that I never got even after 2,300 hours, which is insane. Well, that pushed me into playing trade in Path of Exile 2, just because I felt that if I didn't, it would take me even longer, even more time to gain access to certain builds. Well, I never had that problem in Last Epoch. I don't think they make it too easy, but definitely not too hard either. So for me, that's definitely a positive, but maybe it isn't for you. I don't know. Why am I saying that? Because I believe one of the main reasons for the success Path of Exile 2 has is the economy in the trade leagues. I think they could probably make a similar system to the one in Last Epoch, in which you get better drops in COF, but I think they choose not to on purpose. Why? Many reasons. People love chasing wealth, people love the satisfaction that selling an item for a lot brings, and it also opens the door for several other playstyles, like for example items flippers, or for example profit crafting. So by not making COF great, aka SSF in Path of Exile 2, pardon me, they ensure that the vast majority of players will stay in the trade leagues. I have been quite successful in the trade leagues in Path of Exile 2, and it has been fun, not gonna lie. But I like the way Last Epoch does it more. I believe it is healthier and I believe they respect your time more. Number 8 and last one as well, the uniques. I like how many of the uniques in Last Epoch are generally powerful and useful. In the early to mid game, you can probably straight up equip any of the uniques that you can find, and it would help you out. On the other hand, in Path of Exile 2, I think that most of the uniques are specialized slash tailored for certain builds. There are very few examples of uniques that are best in slot for every build in Path of Exile 2. And probably the only two examples that come to mind are Headhunter and Vertex. Meanwhile, in Last Epoch, you have uniques like Nihilis, for example, that are helpful for most builds, probably. You know, it gives you +2 to all skills, it gives you mana regen, increased health, increased mana, increased movement speed, 15% to all resistances. Jesus Christ, which build wouldn't like that? I took a small break in order to eat dinner. I had some salmon, really yummy, and now I got myself a beer. Cheers for the weekend. What? What do you mean it's not weekend yet? Tuesday is actually the younger sister of Saturday, in case you guys didn't know. But yeah, now let's talk about the things that need improvement in Last Epoch. Number 1, the story and the campaign. I'll be honest, I don't really pay much attention to the story in games in general, but nevertheless, I feel like the story in Path of Exile 2 is much easier to understand and much more coherent than the story in Last Epoch. In fact, I don't remember much from the story in Last Epoch. I only remember that, well, I only know that we are using some kind of device in order to travel throughout the, different acts slash timelines, in order to stop the void slash corruption and fix mistakes from the past and save the world, basically. Which is a cool concept, don't get me wrong, a very cool concept, but I just feel like the execution of the idea is a bit poor. I don't remember many of the bosses in the campaign either, other than Lagoon and Majas, I guess. And the deer guy, I forgot his name. He looks like a deer. Horiot, something like that. Oh, and talking about Lagoon, I don't like that boss. The first time that I've seen Lagoon, I was actually quite excited. I imagined that it would be a epic fight in which, I don't know, maybe he gets out of the water and he's huge, right? And I have to break my neck looking up at him and dodging attacks and being like, right? Or that he will use his tentacles to like grab my feet and drag me underwater, right? And I have to, to treat it like a God of War fight in which like I have to press a button in order to break free and then swim up, and yeah, epic fight, right? But nope, all he does is he does this with his tentacles, right? And you have to hit them. That's it. Yeah. The only thing that I like about the campaign in Last Epoch is that it is significantly shorter than the campaign in Path of Exile 2. I think that the campaign in Path of Exile 2 takes so much energy to finish. So yeah, the campaign and the story in Last Epoch would definitely use some improvements. Number 2, respecking. I hate the fact that whenever you want to respec one skill, they don't give you the points back immediately. You have to level up that skill again in order to get your points back. So to respec means basically to temporarily nerf that skill. I hate it. It needs improvement. Number 3, the graphics. Not a lot to say here. The game doesn't look bad. I don't hate the graphics, but I believe they need improvement. Number 4, the lack of endgame activities. The endgame gets repetitive pretty quickly, at least in my opinion, especially the part in which you push for higher corruption. You have to kill the Harbinger, and then you have to clear a map, and then you have to clear the echo of a world. And you have to do that over and over and over and over and over again. And I have simplified that a little bit, assuming that you have temporal keystones in order to up your stability immediately. Path of Exile 2 has endgame problems as well. Of course it does. But not as bad as Last Epoch. In Path of Exile 2, you can do maps, you can do the temple, you can do the trials of the Sekemas, you can do the trials of chaos, etc., etc. And supposedly they are also working on a better endgame for 0.5. So in my opinion, Last Epoch could definitely use an improvement in the variety of in-game activities. And that's it for the things that need improvement. I could have, of course, included a few more, like for example, better tooltips or for example, faster updates, but I don't want to be nitpicking too much. Final thoughts, Last Epoch is a great game, much better than I was expecting actually, and I am definitely going to come back next season. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and see you next time. Bye.